Chief Williams had killed 6 wives for wealth and long life. Sandra was the last ingredient. Sandra's life looked like a dream on Instagram. She lived in a mansion in Banana Island, drove a customized Range Rover, and her husband, Chief Williams, showered her with diamonds. But every night at 11:45 p.m., the fairy tale turned into a nightmare. While other wives were tucked into their warm silk sheets, Chief Williams would lead Sandra down a corridor she had learned to dread, the long marble hallway that smelled of embalming oil and expensive perfume, toward the door that was never supposed to exist. "If you want to remain the queen of this mansion," he would whisper, his voice cold as ice, "you know what you must do. You know where you must sleep." The diamond on Sandra's finger was the size of a pigeon's egg, but her heart was as heavy as a lead coffin. To the world, she was the queen of Banana Island. Her Instagram was a sea of private jets, designer bags, and photos of her handsome, doting husband. But every night, when the clock struck 11:30 p.m., the luxury ended. Chief Williams would stop smiling. His eyes would turn cold, reflecting something ancient and hungry. Time to pay the rent, Sandra, he would whisper. He didn't mean money. He meant her soul. 3 years ago, Sandra was a village girl selling roasted corn by the roadside. Chief Williams had spotted her, swept her off her feet, and transformed her life overnight. But on their wedding night, before the celebration even ended, he led her to a room at the far end of the east wing. A room with no windows, sealed with a heavy iron door. Inside, 6 women lay arranged on 6 elegant beds, each dressed in white lace, each perfectly preserved, their faces smooth and still, their hands folded over their chests like sleeping royalty. Soft music played from somewhere Sandra could not see. She had screamed. Chief Williams had let her scream until she was tired. Then, calmly, he poured 2 glasses of red wine and sat beside her trembling body on the floor. "These are my wives," he said simply. "Adaize, Nkechi, Fumi, Ronke, Blessing, Chisom. Each one gave herself so that I could live long and prosper. Their life force feeds the covenant." And now he placed the glass in her shaking hand. "You are number 7. 7 is the number of completion, Sandra. You are the most important one." Sandra had stared at the 6 still faces. 6 women who had once laughed. 6 women who had once had Instagram pages and designer bags and thought they were the lucky ones. "I will become like them," she whispered. "Not yet," he said, smiling softly. "The covenant requires time. Every night you sleep in that room, surrounded by your sisters, the ground drinks a little. By the first anniversary of our marriage, the ritual will be complete." Then he made her kneel. He placed a small, ancient knife against her palm and pressed until blood came. "You will never speak of this room to any living soul," he commanded, his voice filling the entire mansion like thunder. "If you do, your tongue will rot in your mouth before the words finish leaving it. Do you swear?" Sandra,
Yes,
trembling, bleeding, had sworn. And that was how the golden cage was built, not with iron bars, but with an oath sealed in blood. Every night without fail, Chief Williams would appear at Sandra's bedroom door at exactly 11:45 p.m., dressed in his silk robe, holding a single key. The walk down the marble corridor was the longest walk of Sandra's life. Every single night, her bare feet on the cold marble would echo through the silence of the sleeping mansion, and with every step, her chest would tighten. She had begged, she had cried, she had tried everything. Chief, please. One night, she grabbed the door frame of her bedroom, refusing to move. "Please, I cannot go in there tonight. I cannot lie in that room again, please." Chief Williams looked at her the way a man looks at a clock that is running slow. Mildly irritated, not concerned. Sandra. He said her name the way a teacher corrects a child. All the luxurious lifestyles you live is not free. It's time to pay the rent. You pay every night. This is the price. He reached past her and lifted her silk robe from the hook behind the door, draping it over her shoulders with almost tender care. If you do not sleep in that room tonight, the covenant will turn on you before its time. He stepped back and gestured down the corridor. You would not want that, would you? Sandra pulled the robe tight and walked. She always walked. The room smelled of roses and something underneath the roses that Sandra had never been able to name. Sandra's bed, her assigned bed, number 7, which sat empty and waiting at the far end of the room, had fresh white sheets every night. Chief Williams was meticulous about that. Fresh sheets, a glass of water on the nightstand, as though she were a guest, as though this were a hotel. Every night, Sandra would lie on her back in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the 6 women around her. She had given them names in her mind beyond the names Chief Williams had recited. She called them her sisters. She had studied their faces so many times, she knew every feature. The woman on the bed directly beside hers, who had a small scar above her left eyebrow. Sandra used to wonder who gave her that scar. What Sandra could not stop noticing, what kept her awake in the darkness long after she was supposed to be sleeping, was how much she was beginning to look like them. She was fading. She could feel herself being slowly, quietly emptied. And with each night she spent in that room, she was one step closer to becoming the 7th still figure in white lace, hands folded, preserved and silent for the next wife to lie beside. At 5 a.m., the door opened. Chief Williams smelled of expensive cologne and greed. How was the night, my love? He asked, stroking her cheek. His touch felt like a snake crawling on her skin. Peaceful, she lied, her voice trembling. That afternoon, Sandra tried to pack a bag to run, but she found the gates of the mansion electrified. The security guards had orders. The madame does not leave without the chief. She was a prisoner in a golden cage by day and a sacrifice by night. She walked back to her room knowing fully well she was completely trapped here and there's no escape. She lay on her bed in the room thinking about her lifestyle when she was just a roadside corn seller. I should never have traded my peaceful lifestyle for this nightmare, she thought. And now something was pressing on her chest, heavy and urgent, like a hand pushing down. She recognized it, dimly, the way you recognize the face of someone you haven't seen in years and have almost convinced yourself you never knew. It was conviction. She sat up slowly and pulled her knees to her chest. And for the first time in 3 years, Sandra thought about the girl she used to be. She had been something once, before Banana Island, before Chief Williams and his room of sleeping women. Back in the village, there had been a young Sandra who woke up every morning at 5 a.m., not because a covenant demanded it, but because she wanted to meet God before the rest of the world woke up. She had been that girl, a fervent, fire-burning, tongue-speaking, tear-soaked prayer warrior who had once prayed for 3 days straight when her mother fell ill, and her mother had risen from that sickbed. A girl whose grandmother said, "This one, God hears her when she opens her mouth." Where had that girl gone? Sandra pressed her hands over her mouth as the shame rose in her like floodwater. She knew exactly where that girl had gone. She had traded her in, piece by piece, designer bag by designer bag. She had seen the warning signs when Chief Williams came. The unease in her spirit the first time he touched her hand. The dream she'd had the night before their wedding of a dark room and 6 sleeping faces that she had dismissed as wedding nerves. She has silenced every alarm God had sounded in her soul because the mansion was beautiful and the poverty of her past was ugly. And she had chosen the beautiful thing. And now here she was, lying in the beautiful thing's worst room every night, fading. "God," she whispered. The word came out cracked and strange. "God." A little stronger this time. I don't even know how to start. I don't know if you still hear me. I don't know if I have any right to open my mouth to you after everything. She stopped, pressed her fists against her eyes. After everything I chose, the tears came without warning. Not the delicate, managed tears she had performed for Chief Williams at the door. These were ugly tears, the kind that come from a place so deep inside a person that when they finally surface, the whole body shakes with them. I knew something was wrong. You told me so many times, and I covered my ears, Lord. I covered my ears because I didn't want to go back to being poor. I didn't want to go back to the roadside and the hunger and people looking through me like I was nothing. I chose this over you, and I saw an oath to a darkness I had no business being near, and I have been sleeping in that room for months, Lord, 11 months, lying beside women who died because nobody warned them, and I knew all along what I was becoming one of them, and I said nothing, I did nothing, She broke completely. For a long time, there was nothing but the sound of her weeping in the room. When the worst of it passed and she could breathe again, Sandra slid from the bed onto her knees on the cold floor. Father, forgive me, she whispered into the floor. Not because I deserve it. I know I don't deserve it, but because you are merciful and I have nowhere else to go. She stayed in that position and she began to pray the way she had prayed as a girl. Not carefully, not politely, but with everything she had left, which was not much, but she gave it all. She prayed through her shame. She prayed through the oath she had sworn and the blood she had spilled. She prayed for a way out of a room that had no windows. She prayed for the 6 women on the 6 beds. And then, when she had nothing left to say, she simply breathed in and out. And in that almost darkness, in the quiet after the storm of her praying, Sandra felt something she had not felt in months. She did not hear an audible voice, but something settled in her spirit with the weight and certainty of a word spoken directly into her soul. I have not forgotten where you are. Sandra lifted her head from the floor. Her face was wet and swollen, but she rose from the floor a different woman than the one who had gone down. She sat back on the edge of her bed, straightened her spine, and she began, quietly, deliberately, to plan. She did not know yet exactly what she would do or how she would do it, but she knew with a certainty that had no logical explanation that she would not become the 7th sleeping woman in this room. God had heard her.
Shout out time! Hey my people! Today's special shout out goes to Diana from Ghana, Lovely from Nigeria, Janet Leo from Nigeria, Hazel from Zimbabwe, Fatima from Gambia, Adina from South Carolina. Your support does not go unnoticed. I appreciate you so much, 100%. If you want to be featured next, comment your nickname and country below. Sending love to you all.
Mwah! It was a cold Friday night when something shifted. Sandra lay in the dark as usual, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting the minutes until 5 a.m. when Chief Williams would return to unlock the door. The 6 women were completely still. And then the woman in the bed beside hers moved. Sandra's heart stopped. It was not a dramatic movement. It was barely anything at all. A slight turn of the head, the one with the scar above her eyebrow, her face now angled directly towards Sandra. Her eyes were still closed, but her lips were moving. Sandra pressed herself against the headboard, pulling her knees to her chest. He's almost done with you. The whisper was barely a sound. It was more like a thought that appeared inside Sandra's head. You have maybe 2 weeks left before the final sealing. Who are you? Sandra breathed. My name is Blessing. The whisper came. I was number 6. I thought I had more time too. Sandra looked at the door. Locked. She looked at the 6 still faces around her. 5 of them were motionless. Only Blessing's lips continued to move. He is planning something for you. A final ceremony. A Saturday night when the covenant reaches its peak. He will bring you here that night and you will not leave in the morning. You will become like us.
Dry grass.
Then help me, Sandra whispered fiercely, tears streaming down her face. Tell me how to stop him. The lips stilled for a moment. The covenant is sealed in blood, Blessing finally whispered. It can only be broken by fire. His fire, not yours. His. Then the head turned back. The face was still again. And Sandra sat in the dark until 5 a.m. with her mind working like she had never let it work before. The next morning, while Chief Williams hosted business associates in his study, Sandra did something she had never dared to do before. She searched the mansion. She found his private library behind the bookshelf in the east wing, the one that swung open when she pressed the third volume from the left. Inside, she found a leather journal, old and swollen with use. She opened it with trembling hands. Every page was a wife, a photograph paper clipped to the top, a name, a date of marriage, a date of completion. Adaize, married 2018, completed 2019. Nkechi, married 2019, completed 2020. Fumi, married 2020, completed 2021. Ronke, married 2021, completed 2022. Blessing, married 2022, completed 2023. Chisom, married 2023, completed 2024. Then the last page, a photograph she recognized immediately because she saw it every day in the mirror. Sandra, married 2024, completion scheduled this Saturday. She closed the journal, set it down carefully, sat very still for a long moment. Then she began to plan. Chief Williams was in an excellent mood that Saturday. He hummed while he knotted his tie. He ordered the chef to prepare Sandra's favorite meal. He presented her with a necklace worth millions over dinner, fastening it around her neck with gentle hands, pressing a kiss to her temple. You have been a wonderful wife, my love, he said warmly. Tonight we celebrate. Sandra smiled back at him. Her hands were steady. She was surprised by how steady they were. When 11:45 p.m. arrived, Chief Williams appeared at her door as always, holding the key. But tonight, there was something different in his energy. An anticipation, a brightness in his eyes that made Sandra's blood run cold because she now understood exactly what it meant. He was excited. Shall we? He said, extending his arm like a gentleman escorting a lady to a ballroom. Sandra took his arm and walked. At the door, Chief William unlocked the door and guided her inside. Then Sandra stopped. She turned to him and she let the tears come. Real tears, because they were not difficult to find. Chief, please, her voice broke perfectly. I don't want to sleep in here tonight. Please, I'm begging you. I'm scared. She gripped his lapels. Please, just tonight. Let me sleep in my own bed. Just tonight. Chief Williams looked at her for a long moment. Something almost like tenderness crossed his face. He reached up and removed her hands from his lapels, holding them gently in both of his. My love, he said quietly, since you know how to spend my money, you know how to carry designer bag, fly first class, show the whole of Instagram what a blessed woman you are. He squeezed her hands. This is how you pay for it. This has always been how you pay for it. He released her hands. The 6 sisters are waiting for you. Go and rest. Tonight is a special night. He placed his hand gently on her back. Good night, my love. The door locked behind her. Sandra stood in the center of the room and looked at the 6 still women for the last time. Then she reached into the fold of her robe where she had hidden a small bottle of anointing oil and a box of matches taken from the prayer corner in her bedroom that Chief Williams had always found amusing. The covenant is sealed in blood, Blessing had said. It can only be broken by fire. His fire, not yours, his. Sandra sat on the edge of her bed and waited, calm as she had ever been in her life. At 5 a.m., the key turned in the lock. Chief Williams stepped in, and the moment he did, Sandra saw it. The change that came over his face, the hunger, the excitement of completion. He crossed the room toward her with purpose, reaching into his robe for the small ceremonial blade she now knew he carried. It is time, Sandra, he said softly. I know, she replied. She walked toward him. She let him believe for just one more moment that she was his 7th sleeping queen. And then she poured the entire bottle of anointing oil over his head. He froze, too shocked to react, and in that half second of confusion, Sandra struck the match. The covenant is sealed in blood, she said clearly, stepping back, and broken by fire. The room erupted. Chief William screamed, a sound that didn't belong to any human throat, a sound that came from something much older and much darker than the man she had married. He staggered backward, and as the flames rose, something extraordinary happened. The 6 women sat up, all 6 of them simultaneously on their 6 white beds, their eyes opening for the first time in years. They did not look frightened. They looked like women who had been waiting patiently for a very long time. 6 pairs of eyes watched Chief Williams with an expression Sandra could only describe as justice. 6 pairs of hands reached out, and the covenant took its owner home. The fire was contained to the east wing. The mansion mostly survived. Chief Williams did not. When investigators searched the property, they found the room and the 6 women who, without the covenant sustaining them, had finally peacefully been released. The journal in the hidden library kept the tabloids running for months. Banana Island billionaire's secret room. 7 wives, 1 survived. Sandra was found on the mansion's balcony at dawn, wrapped in her silk robe, her hands folded in her lap, the $1 million necklace still at her throat. When the lawyers read the will, it had been mysteriously updated 48 hours prior, leaving everything to Sandra. They say she sold the mansion, paid for the burial of all 6 women in their home villages, and moved back to her own village, where she built a hospital and a school. She never remarried. She never explained exactly what happened in that room, and no court ever pressed hard enough to find out. But people say that every Saturday night, Sandra lights 6 candles in her village home, 1 for each woman who lay beside her in the dark, and sits with them until dawn. Not because she has to, but because she remembers what it cost to survive. The mansions men build on the blood of others never stand forever. But the woman who finds her way back to her knees will always find her way out of the room. No matter how far you have wandered, no matter what oath darkness made you swear, no matter how many nights you have spent lying in the wrong bed, grace has a longer memory than shame. Return, just return. God never locks the door on a soul that is genuinely coming home.